Thank you very much.
Okay, well, I think we have a very interesting audience from all over the world here. We have gentlemen from New Zealand, India, Germany, Switzerland, Brazil. Thank you very much all for being here this afternoon. We'll do it in a kind of short version, of course. The topic is very, very interesting and long. If I was to teach you or try to teach you how to do business in Brazil, we would stay here probably for a week. And you would still have questions for 1 week more. So I hope to help you with a brief idea, and I am at the show, so anything you want to ask later, please feel free, or my contact is going to be here too. My company is called LZ Consultoria. We are located in São Paulo, Brazil. We represent also the ZIL company, which is the media manufacturer here in Germany, and Coulter actually is the right name, and Switzerland. The LZ company is very, very new as LZ, but we have 25 years experience. So this is a new company within the company we already have. And I like to say we have some mission statement, but basically we work focused on the passion we have for this segment. We work trying to bring a lot of knowledge to the market. The experience, like I said, probably more than 30 years if we take everybody within the company with the graphic arts market. Assertiveness, comprehension, strategy, anyway, focus, resilience, win-win. And the tough part is how to do all of this in Brazil. It's not easy, I can tell you. So, who we are, basically. My name is Edsel Lonza. I am the junior. There is an Edsel Lonza senior back there that's still in the company. Basically, that's me real quick. Anyway, not selling myself here. The company is specialized in international business consulting, located in São Paulo, Brazil, a little bit outside of São Paulo. We are very experienced in the analog and digital printing business. The technologies, we have a lot of expertise in conventional and industrial. The specialty is inkjet, but we also know all of the other technologies. Photography, business consultancy and training. And what we do, we act, acting as an agent, providing business and technical consultancy services for companies who want to do business basically in Latin America and in Brazil. Let's go to the central port. We have a lot of opportunities these days, not just Brazil, but we have what everybody knows as BRIC, right? Brazil, Russia, India, China, very different from each other. It's funny because we belong to the same group, but we are very different in business dynamics. But there are points that can merge together, and this is the idea here. Okay? It's a very long program, so I just show you here. If I was to give the full program or to teach you everything on how to do business in Brazil, we would have to cover all of this. So what I'll try to do today is give you an overview and, the more I can in terms of information about that. Basically, quick facts. Brazil today is the 7th wealthiest economy in the world with the GDP of 2.2 trillion. These are the official numbers, so you can see there's a lot of people there. There's a lot of people buying and selling things. We have the largest country in the area, 3.3 million square miles, and population is today more than 200 million, if we are to say the real truth. So, big country. Lots of people. The reforms we had in 1990 made a lot of difference for the country that was suffering from big interest rate. Inflation was incredible, and this was reduced after all of these reforms. Adapting to the 2011 global downturn, they had a program in Brazil to try to arrange things and fix things. Basically, this was the Growth Acceleration Plan that was launched in 2007, and this brought a lot of people out of the the poverty and created a bigger median class with power to buy things. This is why people talk about the miracle of China and miracle of Indian products getting into Brazil and everything that happened, because people start to have more power and to live better and need better things. Of course, the World Cup, let's not talk about World Cup, please, after the 7-1. Mainly the German people in the audience are not allowed to say anything. Anyway, now we are importing players from Germany to fix our team. Or coach, maybe. Anyway, the World Cup was very good. It was not the miracle people were expecting for the country, but for the printing industry was really very nice. The numbers generated in terms of printing were fantastic for Brazil, and also was a good opportunity to bring new technologies and new products for the printing industry into Brazil. Now we have the Olympics in 2016, and we are expecting the same very nice effect in terms of bringing lots of print into the country. Anyway, just quick facts. This is important. Since 2012, the Bank of Reconstruction and Development invested a lot in 57 projects in the country, and this 57 is now turned into 68 new projects, which really proves, despite of the flotation of the currency and everything we see in Brazil, people are still investing a lot. I know some might say Petrobras was the hit of the moment. It was not nice what happened, but it's not as much as they promote in the news outside. And I'm very happy to tell you later about more about Petrobras in details if someone is interested. Okay, in LAM, the reality is remained largely resilient to the global economic turmoil, stayed on course to grow 2.5 to 3% over the past 3 years in general. Of course, Brazil leading that. Brazil was still, and again, the locomotive for the Latin American growth. The growth projections, it's a little bit complicated because it contrasts. In 2011, we had this miraculous 4.2%, and we have a situation due to the economic prospects. The main trade partners, like I said, US, China, and Europe. But the situation in Brazil was very nice and a little bit complicated recently. And you can see we had an expected growth in economy around 1.3 only, unfortunately, 2016, but it's growth. It's better than steady or not growing. Anyway, this is really less from the 3.5 we had in 2012 and 3.3 in 2011. So, and we will try to explain what happened, right, in the future. Brazil's unique characteristic, and this is very important for anyone that is looking to have business down there. A big characteristic of Brazil is its big internal consumption. When we talk about, like we said, 200 million people, and out of that 200, we have 60, right, we're talking about 60 million people capable of buying, purchasing things, and accelerating business. So it's a lot of people to buy your products or anyone's product still, independently of the flotation of the currency and all of that. But we have some other important facts. So if you think about these two facts together, right, the big internal consumption, and I must say to you, Brazil is not dependent on exports. And this is good and bad, depending on how you look. But for someone that wants to put products into Brazil, this sounds very interesting because of the internal consumption, right? The other thing is there are very interesting programs from the Brazilian government today to promote anything that is done, assembled, or who promotes jobs, labor force in Brazil. These programs are, for example, BNDES, Proger, Finame, whatever the name. This basically is Brazil still have a big reserve of, here we go, a lot of money to be lent to people, and Just to give an idea of the craziness of the economical factors there. Interest rate, in average, if you go to a bank in Brazil, we're talking about 9 to 13% a month. So it's crazy. To borrow money from the bank down there is absolutely crazy. You will never get out of this hole, right? You can imagine you borrow money for 13% a month. But if you are cooperating with any international company and you prove that 60% of your product is done, assembled, manufactured, whatever, using Brazilian labor force, right? And done in Brazil. It doesn't matter if you are importing parts, if you are importing technology licensee, if you do that in Brazil, right, you receive this new program, which is basically 5% per year interest rate for you to get the money, compared to the 9 to 13 per month. So it's a big difference. Not just for you. You can take this money to build up your operation in Brazil at 5% per year, and you can give your customers the same financial line to buy your product for just 5% per year. So basically what this is creating is the possibility for people to do business in Brazil in two ways. For the guy who is bringing the product to make the product available to the population to buy, and to the population to have money to buy your product. And there is a tricky there. Also, there is one benefit, big one. The risk of the business is not anymore from the entrepreneur or from the company who is bringing the product. Because if the product has to be confiscated because the guy didn't pay, the bank will have to do it. Because you receive your money up front, cash. So this made all the difference and is making all the difference. So people ask me, Edsel, how come with all of this Petrobras thing and BNDES thing and with the high interest rates, the difficulty to import, how come Brazil is still a good place to do business? One of the reasons is this. But of course, you ask me, is it easy to get this financial line? Depends. If you go by yourself from outside, no. If you have someone helping you locally, yes. And I'm not talking about any under the table or, excuse type of business. I'm talking about everything legal. These are all legal. These are all best practices. But you need to have someone helping you there. Anyway, let's talk about the good things, not just the bad things. The immediate global concerns we have, people also ask me, and please, I have to say this before I go ahead. I don't have any preference for any country, right? These are just facts. So they talk to me, we had a Chinese invasion. What do we do against the Chinese down there? This is changing too. I mean, the government realized it was so far enough. Because now the Chinese, low budget, low price and everything, products are starting to complicate labor and start to complicate the Brazilian industry. So I will show you some actions that have been taken to bring to a much more fair practice and fair prices and fair investments, okay? So China's projected drop in growth to below 8%. Already showed to us that it was not the miracle that everybody was expecting. Because I remember doing conferences like 3-4 years ago and listening to growths like 12, 13%, sustainable. I love it when everybody said sustainable growth. Who can sustain a growth of 13% in a world like we live today? And sustainable for how long? So it was not the miracle that was expected. To produce quality, everybody knows you have to have good labor, good quality check, good quality control, good base raw materials, and this costs money. So how can you be cheap if you are securing quality? So that's also the reason, because China started to have to pay better the workers, right? And to pay better the workers and to produce better workforce, you need to train them, and all of that costs money. So the miracle 13% went out to 8%, and I bet with anyone that this is going to be much lower over the next years. So far, I have won my bets. So I think it's going to be down to maybe 7% or something like that. Very important is here the anti-dumping rules and laws in Brazil against important print consumables, and I will talk more about that now, which is one of the biggest strategies from the Brazilian government to refrain all of these not so legal or not so nice operations down there. The opportunities, like I told, all of the big consumption we have there. Okay, let's talk about how this works. First, these are all statements, you don't need to read it all, I can explain to you. People ask me a lot, Edsel, what about Mexico? You know, when you say the locomotive of the Latin American countries, what about Mexico? Mexico is still very dependable on US for everything. Mexico is still very dependent on being the manufacturing place to export. Mexico do not have half of the internal consumption that Brazil has. So that's basically the difference. Yes, you have lower taxation for imported goods into Mexico, but that does not compensate for the consumption you have in Brazil. Anyway, let's go straight to what interests us here. Talking about our market specifically, to give you an example of what happened, I took, let's say, in general, for printers, we're talking about in Latin America, approximately, because there's no official data in our industry, unfortunately. I would love to have more official data like we have for offset printing or flexo, but the digital print is still what we guess from what we gather from associations and company. We're talking about Latin America total of approximately 33,000 printers, meaning it's a big market. But check that out, we're talking about 50% in Brazil, at least, then 30% in Mexico, and all the rest is 20%. Right, we're talking about the Andean, Southern Cone, Central, and the Caribbean. So real, the big deal, as you can see, these are official numbers from associations, not numbers that we guess. So you can see Brazil is really leading. We're talking about a market of today split between sublimation, UV, and solvent, 15,000 printers. I can tell you, these are new printers, because there is another very important characteristic in Brazil. There is a huge market for refurbishing printers or giving new applications from an old existing printer. So if we talk about the refurbished or refixed printers, or printers that were used for something and now has a new destination for application, we're talking probably much more than that, and we will reach around 22 to 23,000 printers in the marketplace. So then comes the question, if there is so many machines, Edsel, how can I bring a new one there? Think about what I've said. Think about the 60 million people that direct or indirect will be buying with the eyes or with the pocket all of these prints. Still a lot of space for new printers. One important thing, and I have to tell you again, through these 25 years I've worked with many countries and many different cultures, and I can assure to you, the country who accepts best, and this is studied by the American Psychiatrists Association. So it was a study that the psychiatrists did in terms of the consumer behavior. Brazil today is the country that most accepts novelty and is thirsty and hungry for novelty. So anything that is launched that makes sense is, of course, not craziness, but new printer, new print technique, new material, new inks is very easy accepted. To give you a good figure, newcomers or entrants, who are the people who buy the product when it's launched, in Brazil represents more than 16% of the purchasing power population. It's a lot. 16% of the market saying, yes, we'll buy it right there. You should see the lines for the new iPhones. Crazy. And it's something you imagine that because an iPhone costs in Brazil $1,000 or $1,500 is not cheap. Sometimes like the 6S, we're talking about $2,000 for a phone. And still lines to buy it. So Brazil accepts very well novelty. So this is the situation. Brazil expected to grow, to have 3,000 at least new printers coming to the market in 2015-16. I think it's a little bit more, but honestly, this is a very fair number. And we are talking about new technology there. Okay? Right. Very important. 70% of the installed base is imported and 30% is locally made or assembled. Imports, OEMs as the original source, not traders, come from, and here is important because these numbers will change significantly over the next 3 to 6 years. Why? Because of all of these anti-dumping laws, the new program of the government, of the 5% interest rate, everything I'm telling you today. So it's for sure going to change. Today the reality is 60% from Asia, basically China, India, and Japan, 20% from US, 20% from Europe. Forget about this thing that everybody says Brazil likes to buy from US. Right? Brazil, everything that works in US, work in Brazil. Yes, in the past, 10 to 15 years ago. Today is not the truth anymore. Today is a lot split between Europe and US in terms of lifestyle and type of things to be purchased. Europe is very much the reference these days. It's changing significantly. I think a lot of business with India will come, no doubt, because of some natural relations we have, or behaviors, if you like. And China tends to reduce significantly because they will have to improve quality, labor, practices, and all of that, and this costs money. Okay, let's go to our market and talk deeply about what we see today. If we take the market by type of application or end application, this is the reality. In units, you can see, we have signs still representing a big chunk of the pie there. But I want to show you the growth of sublimation in Brazil over the past year. It's almost ridiculous when you look at that. It drives any statistics guy crazy. Because you see, it was planned to grow 3%, right? It didn't grow 3%. It grew below 1%. And even though we have this type of growth in one type of technology. So, do you think Brazil likes textile? No doubt. It's probably the biggest growing market today in Brazil, mainly in our segment. While you can see some other traditional things reducing significantly. So here you can see how and why Brazilians accept very well new technologies and new types of products. We need to talk more about that later. Sublimation. It's not a small 41% growth. Okay, shared by brand. And please, if there is anyone from one of the brands here, don't get mad with me. These are official numbers, and I researched them 10 times. So I'm sorry if you are one of the brands that reduced its sales over the years, and I'll be very happy to consult for you to help you change the numbers if you want. Okay, so as you can see, our friends from Epson are doing pretty well. Reason for that is because they are forever there. They understand probably a little bit better the culture. And anyway, the practice they've done in 2013 to 14 was very good. So I quite like to see these numbers, mainly down there that we are talking about. 80,000 units with, being down only 9% is something that attracts attention of any investor, I can guarantee you. So they ask, how come people are still investing in Brazil? Why they didn't remove Brazil from the grade of investment with the Petrobras thing? It's all the time the Petrobras thing. Because of that, that's the real world. Forget about the newspapers. There are always politics inside of those statements. This is the real world, right? Check sublimation. This is definitely about to change, mainly after a show like this. I'm sure people will come here and will bring more stuff to Brazil. So this is the reality, but honestly, very, very about to change. And a I use this slide to ask a very important question, and please, again, don't get mad at me. But when I talk about novelty and quality, where is Epson from? So when people say to me, Edsel, forget about Brazil, why am I going to Brazil with my beautiful, high quality, expensive product if Brazilians only buy from China? Do you really think Brazilians only buy from China? Numbers are there. Yes, they do buy from China, many things, but check this, it's changing. If I brought a slide, it was my mistake not to bring it because there's so many things going on. But I would like to show you my slide from 2007. Totally the opposite. If you see the sign, slide, it was China 70%. So you see how it's changing, right? Okay. Sign, like I said. Check that out. Why others is 54%? Who are these others? Remember about the plan? Remember about the program from the government, the low interest rate? These others are people assembling and manufacturing locally. And the market that is leading this is Sign. Now, if someone comes back next year, I'll be probably showing you another slide, and textile, Sublimation will be leading. Because we have already 3 new local manufacturers of sublimation machines and direct print textile machines in Brazil. And then you ask me, oh, Edsel, so why am I going there if you have the local manufacturers? Remember, we're talking about local machines assembled with external technology, external parts. And which inks does this machine use? Which medias? We don't do these inks in Brazil. We don't do these medias in Brazil. We don't do the parts, the pumps, the motor, the electronics, blah, blah, blah. So, Edsel, how can I prove 60% is done in Brazil? If you do all the metal things, you fold them, you bend them, or you CNC them, that's it. Trust me, with the local partner, if you import the print head, it's already considered to be 60% done in Brazil, because the print heads represent more than 60% of the machine. How about that? So, very, very nice. And the message for, the manufacturer, the imported machines is, you have to adapt to your costs, basically. Anyway, these are very nice figures, as you can see. Photo. You have proofing. You have engineering. But this will attract, I think, the guys who sell inks. As you can see, it's a very interesting consumption. It's a very nice equation. If I manufacture ink, I would try to sell them in Brazil for sure. These are data from the market, again, is the reality, right? Okay, a little bit of data. Like I told you, you see USA have 34 anti-dumping acts this year. Australia, Argentina, and Czech, Brazil, 43 so far, 23 more to come up the next 3 to 4 weeks. What means anti-dumping? The government decides that an extra money or an extra taxation is going to be put on top of your FOB price because your FOB price seems to be not fair. So every time you go to request a license, you need to pay this extra to clear the goods. This brings the price to an acceptable, fair level. You solve the problem. So easy. And it's what is going on. I will go quickly over this. It's just to illustrate to you. But I can stay a month trying to explain to you the taxation system in Brazil. And we will not be enough. So the main taxes we have, if someone is crazy enough, this is a formula for trying to understand. But basically what I have to say to you is you have between 63% to 80% on top of the FOB price to import into Brazil. And a lot of ways to reduce that. A lot of ways. So that's why I say to people, don't go by yourself. and just try to export to Brazil on the normal way by yourself. And I'm not talking about illegal actions. I'm talking about legal ways to do it. Okay? I like this slide kind of to finish it because we are spot on time, but this is what happened in the past. Basically, if you look about the customer experience chain, you had people bringing high quality equipments with high quality print heads, very poor quality frames and everything, using low quality inks and medias, right, with no support. So what happened to the brand that tried to establish himself in Brazil? Failed. It damaged the brand. So this is why, you know, these low cost, you know, whatever, Asian products are not succeeding very well, because the reality now is this. You have good quality equipment or good quality local assembled equipment using better quality medias and inks with warranty deals involved, right? You have lots of cultural and education programs happening to train and to try to provide better service. And this is what you need to look for. So, what you have to do to be prepared, knowledgeable, be sustainable, and win as a consequence in Brazil. A lot of things, right? They are all listed here. Don't be frightened. You can do that with the right help. But what I have to say as a final message is all of this has to be done. So, when you are ready with all of this, you will certainly win down there. But check this out. It's not a few things. And this is basically what a consultancy or your partner or your branch or your agent should, or let me change the word, must be doing in Brazil if he is really willing to help your company to succeed there. So once again, it's not a few things. So my message is, and really honestly, I'm not selling myself here, forget it. You know, I have too much already on my plate. I'm just saying, be careful when you sign your distribution, agent, whatever, consultancy deals, because if the guy or if the company is not capable of providing all of this, forget it. What I can tell you is the market is fantastic, but demands a lot of work done by local experienced people. Trust me. Right? The benefits you will have to have this help is basically local representation, and this is absolutely important if you are selling directly or indirectly. Don't forget, if you are a supplier of a component that goes on someone's equipment that goes to Brazil, you still have to have someone local helping you. Because Brazilians only do good business if they feel there is someone, a face, right, talking to them right there. It's cultural. It's not going to change. We are Latins, basically, right? Second important things, local language, I don't need even to say, but extensive experience and expertise in connecting international companies. This reduces significantly any waste of time and money. I can't tell you the millions I've seen being wasted because of that. Cultural problems and all of that. Full support and quick communication with the company's local customer. Full support and follow-up to sales teams and goals. Tech support is a must. Now the standards of local tech support are here, from here 10 years ago. Import, come on, this is, you don't have to say anything about that. If you don't have someone local helping you with the import taxes and procedures and all of that, forget it. Extensive knowledge of local law and taxation. The law in Brazil is also today very, very difficult to deal with. And you can lose a lot of money because of that, I can guarantee you. Labor law in Brazil, not easy. Legal representatives to defend the international company's interest with the government, with the associations, with the local law and everything. Experienced and very well-trained team. Basically, I again say, very difficult to do all of this in 30 minutes. Right? If I knew or if I was capable of doing it, I would be definitely a millionaire.